Good evening, this is our news bulletin for tonight. Anti-corruption training helps put matters into perspective for local MPs. Government has resumed importing beer bottles, raising a few concerns. Workshop sessions held this week for parliamentarians to improve financial oversight during budget processes. School health checks help with early detection of health problems in children. Humidity and heat on the island reaches a new record high. Anti-corruption has been at the forefront of discussions for members of the Niue Legislative Assembly who have been in workshops for the past few days. The topic has raised issues around concepts of good governance, transparency, and has also helped members have a clearer understanding of what corruption is and whether it is present here in Niue. We caught up with the MPs today towards the end of their workshops to see what they have gained from the experience.
We must admit that we do have corruption within the government and the private sector. It's not only the government and the civil society. So once you admit that you have the problem, then it's a lot easier to start to work on it. And you can't do everything at once, but if you do a little bit at a time and clear it up and start from the top, because it's the top, it's the problem that everyone says, well, you know, he's doing it, why can't we do it? So I think it's very important for when the Premier and Cabinet have their meetings that they work on this corruption. However big or however small it is, we should make a start. And one of the ones is coming to work on time and leaving on time and doing 8 hours work a day, because you know you're cheating the system and really you're stealing time from the government. There's got 2 or 3 organisations that will, and the projects and recommendations for all the financial situations around the world. So if we happen to join these, then we can become part of that, and then it's up to Niue to do their bit and, as I say, work towards those goals of having corruption-free Niue.
One of the female members of the Assembly mentioned that gender equality was also raised, and the need to have more women representatives in Parliament would also be helpful to bring a different perspective into how government operates. Discussions have enabled Assembly members to gain a different perspective of what corruption is and how they can be more effective in their work as the people's representatives. Government has resumed the importation of beers in bottles. That has raised a few concerns. Beer bottles were banned a few years ago due to safety concerns that people were using bottles as weapons in drunken disputes and additional problems of recycling. The Niue Bond Store has been importing beer bottles since the middle of December last year and have an arrangement for these to be sold in bulk only to licensed restaurant operators. Monitoring beyond this point is the responsibility of the licensed operator. As part of regulations, these beer bottles are sold to patrons who are only allowed to consume them on that premises and not remove or take them outside of those premises. However, there is also concern that despite these arrangements, beer bottles have been leaked out into the community. The Bond Store has confirmed that the recycling issue will be resolved once they get a glass crusher on the next boat that will be used to crush all glass bottles, in turn reducing waste. The glass crusher will be based at the old fish factory. The matter about safety has also been taken into consideration, hence why beer bottles are only sold to licensed restaurants and not to bars, clubs or over-the-counter. Local politicians are expanding their knowledge about their role within Parliament to provide financial oversight, especially during the budget processes. The Niue Legislative Assembly has a number of committees that members can be part of. There are 4 that are currently active. They are the Bills Committee, House Committee, CPA Committee, and the Public Accounts Committee. David Bennett is a New Zealand parliamentarian and chair of the Public Accounts Committee in New Zealand, and we spoke to him to find out what makes this particular committee so important.
Well, I think the big thing about our committee is that we have a special system where we look at before this money is spent and after the money is spent. So it gives you two bits of accountability, and it means that you can have more scrutiny just before the actual spend and after it. So that's the real message that we would bring from the New Zealand committee, is that we find that's quite valuable to have both of those elements in the committee. All parliamentarians around the world have a very difficult job, and it's difficult representing a community, and you've got a small community which has its own challenges, but the people we've met here have been great. They've been very dedicated to their communities and wanting to see the best for their country and their parliament. So it's not that one rule fits all, and certainly we're not coming here and saying, hey, this is what you should do. We're just sort of saying, well, hey, this is what we do. If you find anything in there you find of value, then by all means use that for your own purposes, but there's real dedication, I think, amongst your parliamentarians to do the best they can. We don't have a lot of cases of misspending funds because having a before and after mechanism means that you've got a real good accountability on the whole process. So we don't get to a stage where we have a lot of funds misspent. And I think that's the beauty of the system, and what we're trying to encourage people to look at is if you do that properly, then you shouldn't get to the stage where you have that happen. And it's just giving that accountability before it's actually spent and afterwards, and then you can look at whether or not it was spent as expected. And if it wasn't, well, then questions normally are asked and the responses are given.
The Public Accounts Committee was formerly known as the Public Expenditure Committee, and they closely monitor the national budget to ensure that all public funds are accounted for. We also spoke to a member from Niue's PAC committee to gauge how useful this workshop has been.
The workshop has done us, offered a lot of views, different points of view, and also from other countries within the Pacific. So we need to look at their agenda and their points of what they think is good and see what can help us. But we do need to meet, and that's our problem at the moment. We haven't met for over 8 months, and we should be meeting quarterly to discuss the financial situation of the government, of the country. So having the PAC committee, it's no use if we don't meet. So there's always something to discuss, and we should be having these quarterly meetings or having, weekly or monthly meetings. We can do that. But the chairman's got to call the meeting. We need to change the standing orders, and I think it can easily be done. And just to say that the PAC must meet, on a quarterly basis, and the reports must be filed by Treasury, because we've got to have the reports as well from Treasury. And with this meeting, they've brought up about the oversight of all the areas, assets and expenditure and revenue. So it's really good, and this will certainly help. But again, we've got to walk the talk instead of just talking all the time about it.
The Financial Oversight Workshop concluded today, but the sessions have given members of the committee a fair bit to consider, especially ways to operate more effectively and efficiently. Public health officials have been in the schools this week conducting a series of health checks to identify the state of health of children on the island. The annual health checks have been carried out for the past 5 years and have been helpful to identify some of the health conditions that are prevalent within the schools. Public Health Officer Griselda Mokoia says that the health checks have identified a number of illnesses early on that have been referred to specialists, ensuring that children get the necessary attention.
For both schools, we look at the nutritional status of the kids to see whether or not they are overweight and obese, and we also look at checking their eyesight, so it's visual acuity. That's just to see whether or not they can see the board when the teacher is actually speaking, because some of the reports that we had over the past years is that the kids are not focusing in the classrooms because they couldn't see the board and what the teacher was writing. We also check their hearing, and we also look at the overall personal hygiene of the child. So the last station that we have is looking at the oral health of the kids. So whoever needs to have their teeth the fillings done, or whatever else there are to do with the teeth, we refer them all back to the hospital. So towards the end of the school health checks, we compile all of our data together so that we are able to identify which students need to be seen by the doctors back at the hospital.
Ms. Moya says over the past 5 years they have seen an improvement in oral health and other areas of health, with more awareness for students, teachers, and also getting parents involved as well.
And it's also very important because we're able to monitor and assess the kid's health throughout his or her lifetime to make sure that they are healthy. So from 5 years ago until now, we have seen a lot of improvement thus far in regards to the state of health that the kids have. So the oral health has very much improved this year, as well as the some of the kids over the years have a lot of infected sores. So this year we haven't seen a lot lately. We also manage through these school health checks to refer some of the students to see the specialists. So last year for the eye checks we referred 20 students. So out of the 20 students, 8 students are now wearing glasses, reading glasses. We also referred some students to see the cardiologist for heart murmurs, and we also referred some of the students to see other specialists in relation to what diseases that they may have. So it's very, very important for us to be able to keep monitoring the kids' health at an early age, so early detection is the key.
Before these health checks are done, parental consent is required, and it seems that the more aware parents are of the benefits these checks have for their children, the more forthcoming they are to allow them to be part of the health checks. Koe ta mga honei kua lahi e afu valai motu moe lahi o kaoka ke he tau mumui tangata pia fuki ni mutu akau mutu manu. Talhau mai he whahinga hua fuafang matangi koe afu valai motu hakua angi mai e ta matangi mai he whahi tokelau mai tokelau ki uta. Kaina whamahani ke moa e ta matangi hau hau mai he whahi tonga ki uta. Ke lalawhiat ki ai e tau putuputuanga matangi toko lunga ni kua whia i motu kai amanaki ke hiki ai ke whahi tonga ki uta ke huki uki maha tapu ni hanga watu ki ai. Koe taha mena fuki ne kua kisia ke he aho ue whahi te pamari, kua whakamau he whilo tōru e tau fuafuanga ke he vela he motu, kua mua te tū toko lunga, koe tōru fulma tōru poini hive degree. Koe ela ia he tū toko lunga pihia tali mai he tau uawhi hongo fulu ne whakamau ai koe tōru whamaua poini ono. Ha kua kisia mai longa e afu mai mau vela he motu, kua ka lahi to tangata kai lo ia fuki ni e tau akau muta manu, si amanaki ni tō lali e tō tangata ke whakatumau halu tōru a tau lewe kianga ke tau malolo seno ke whakahauhau, mai inu whakalahi e vai mana kai watu whakanoa ke lewa lahi ke matala. The hot and humid weather we are currently experiencing is starting to get people bothered. For the past 2 weeks, Niue has recorded temperatures of over 30 degrees Celsius, and the muggy conditions have been attributed to calm winds, or more like the lack of a windy breeze. A new record high for the island was noted last week on Tuesday, recorded a temperature of 33.9 degrees Celsius. That is the highest temperature registered since 2010, when it reached 32.6 degrees Celsius. According to the Niue Meteorological Service, our normal wind direction is from the southeast trade winds that often bring cooler air. But we've been experiencing something out of the ordinary, with calm winds from the north to northeast that brings hot air. As it heats up, it's starting to affect people, plants and animals. But some sign of relief is on the horizon, as Niue Meteorological Service say that the island can expect to return to southeast winds by this weekend. That concludes our news bulletin for this evening. Do join us again next week. And all the best to those teams who will be competing in the first rounds of the men's cricket season for this year.